Hello everyone, I'm the Saxy Gamer, and today we're here to talk about some more Civ 7 news because they recently released this update check-in in late October where they're talking about what's going to be coming in the future for Civ 7, so I'm going to go through this newsletter real fast and talk about some of the things that they mentioned in here and give some of my thoughts and opinions because I think that there's some quite interesting things in here that we'll get to very shortly. One of the things that they point out here is that big subject to change stamp on everything here. None of this is final. It's sort of just what they're thinking about and what they're working on at Firaxis. So this is a message from Ed, good old Ed Beach, on what's next for Civ 7. So many of you have asked for a roadmap detailing our future update plans. It's a very fair ask, but we've held off on providing too much detail until we know what significant updates we wanted to make, blah, blah, blah. And then, we're going to share some updates here for the biggest things that are in motion. So first things first, and that is the legacy paths. They're testing some dramatic changes to the legacy paths and victories in Civ 7 because they want to open up the game and provide many new paths that your empire can follow while achieving greatness and competing for victory. I think that this is a good change, and it's one that's very much needed. The legacy paths to me feel a bit bland, and there's essentially no reason not to just complete all of them in every game. In like 90% of the games in Civ 7, you can realistically achieve almost all of the legacy paths in every single era, and there's really no reason not to do that. I mentioned this in my video about all the problems I have with Civ 7, but because of the fact that you can build things so fast, you have so much time that you can essentially build every building in every city in every era. There's no reason not to just spam everything out, do everything, build everything. And this leads to the game feeling very bland because it kind of just feels like you're doing the exact same thing in every single game. You're just kind of going for all these legacy paths very generally. When you hit the last era, you pick one of the victories and you just go for that kind of arbitrarily, whichever one you feel like you can hit the best. In addition, some of the victory conditions and legacy paths are very non-interactive as well and just have you waiting and pressing next turn. I mean, especially some of like the economic victory one where you have to just build factories and then wait till you accumulate a bunch of points. It's just such a boring way to play the game, and it's part of what contributes to the modern age feeling so boring in this game. There's no details on this yet, but I'm very interested in what they're going to be able to do, like how they're going to change these. I really hope that things become more interactive, that there's at least a little bit more variety in what you're doing between games, and that it's not just a case where you can once again just go for every single legacy path in every single age and just do that in every single game. The second one that they're mentioning here is a much bigger one, and it's one that I'm going to talk about for quite a bit longer, and they mention it as one of the most requested features from players, and that's that they're internally playtesting ways to play as one civ continuously throughout the age, allowing you to choose a civilization from any age and guide them throughout your journey through history. So, ready for this new feature, guys. Absolutely new feature, revolutionary feature. You pick one civ and you play as them for the entire game. Wow, incredible. Yeah, sorry for the snarky sarcasm, but if you can't tell, I have very much mixed feelings about this one because it's sort of like a missing the forest for the trees sort of thing in my eyes. So I've previously complained a lot about how civ switching leads to a lack of immersion, and I mean, I still do stand by that. I feel like it really does break the immersion whenever you hit this age transition and everything changes and all these, all of your things change, and all of a sudden you got new names here, you got some French names combined with Chinese names, and it's just a little bit goofy. And the problem here is that I don't know exactly how they're going to implement it, but it's possible that that's not even going to fix that immersion issue because sure, maybe you can stay as the same civ for the entire game, but is the AI that you're playing against going to switch? Are their leaders still going to be mismatched with the civs? That immersion problem is still there, even if the player is able to stay as one civ for the entire game. But for me, the sort of missing the forest for the trees thing is that the far bigger problem is not the actual civ switching itself, but it's the age transition and the lack of general continuity that you get in a game of Civ 7. Like, mechanically and gameplay-wise, that is a far bigger issue than the immersion issue that's brought about by changing civs. Like, on face value, I have no problem mechanics-wise with changing civs because, I mean, that's fun. You get new bonuses, you can, like, you basically have something that's unique in, like, throughout the entire game. So I have no problem with that part of the mechanic. Obviously, I have the immersion issue, but mechanically, I don't have a problem with it. So the real problem that I have is the age transition because everything is very jarring. It kind of is like a big reset button. It feels like you're playing 3 Civ mini games in Civ 7 rather than one continuous Civ game. You have one mini game for each age. And obviously, that issue is still going to be there if you're able to stay as one civilization for the entire game because you're still going to have to go through the age transition. The other major concern that I have for this is just the general lack of vision that's being demonstrated here. they've essentially designed this entire game around the age transition and the civ switching mechanic, along with, not having leaders and civs be linked anymore. So if they add the ability to stay as a single civ for the entire game, then what's the vision there? Is the vision that you can do whatever you want? Why not just let players pick their leader, civilization, colors, unique unit, unique building, bonuses every single game? You can, just you pick everything. You do whatever you want. That right there is an example of a slippery slope rhetorical fallacy. But but the point here is that adding choices to please the people that are complaining isn't always better in my eyes, because if the vision of this game is that you're switching civs and you're evolving throughout the ages, and then now all of a sudden you can stay as one civ throughout the ages, then you've just wiped away part of your vision. I mean, you give the choice for the player to wipe away the part of the vision, but I feel like this is another case of them trying to add more choices to please the people who are complaining, but in the end they're just gonna, they're gonna try to please everybody and please nobody instead, because people that are irritated about civ switching probably are already irritated, and this is not going to make them happy. The other major problem here that I see is that they're going to have to look at rebalancing essentially everything, because, I mean, this entire game has probably been balanced around being able to switch civs. So I don't know how they're going to, handle the civ, if you stay as one civ for the entire game. Do you get more bonuses? Do you not get more bonuses? I don't know how it's going to work, and to be honest, they might find some elegant way to do it. I don't know. But the point here is that all the time that they spend trying to figure that out is time that's not being spent resolving large issues with other systems in the game. So in trying to please everyone, they now have to go back and revisit many of the major systems and the balance work that they've already undoubtedly spent a lot of time working on, just to try to change one of the core systems of the game to adapt to some of the complaints of the players. And I do want to talk a little bit more about the lack of vision part that I just mentioned, because this is not the first time that I've mentioned it. I mean, age transitions and civ switching were really touted as being core mechanics of Civ 7. In previous updates, they've added the continuity options to slightly reduce the effects of the age transitions, and now in this update, they're adding options to make it so that you don't have to change civs if you don't want to. Naturally, that kind of leads us to the question, are the age transition and the civ switching core mechanics of Civ 7, or are they not? And this is yet another time where they're walking back on some of the core mechanics of Civ 7, and my question is, if those two mechanics aren't core features of Civ 7, then what are? Like, if you're removing the impact of your core mechanics, they don't have anything to replace them. So there aren't any major new systems to add and fun things to do. It's only lessening the impact of the things that were supposed to be the major features of the game. So instead of going with the vision that they had whenever they were initially developing this game, the vision just seems to be whatever the player wants to do to get them to stop complaining. Yeah, the whole development of Civ 7 has just really been a mess, it seems, and it appears to continue to be a mess. I mean, in my opinion, this game probably needed at least 2 or 3 more years of development and playtesting before it really ever should have been released. It just continuously feels like this is a beta version of the game, and we are the beta testers, except we paid $70 to beta test this game. I mean, this is unfortunately not an uncommon trend in the gaming world these days, but man, it's just incredibly frustrating, because it seems like they have no clear vision for what they're trying to do. They're just responding to this overwhelming amount of hatred from the player base, and in doing so, it's kind of like, too many cooks in the kitchen. They're getting so much noise from the community that at this point, I don't think they even know what they want to do with this game. Lastly, let's talk about the last thing here, and that's where speaking of too much noise and too many cooks in the kitchen, they're now inviting us, the community, to help shape these mechanics and what they will ultimately look like for Civ 7 with this Firaxis feature workshop, which is basically, a way of, they say, opening the door earlier, inviting a small number of community members to go hands-on with features and development, tell us what's working. So basically, you get to try things early and provide feedback. And this is one thing, this is a good idea, but the reality here is that this should have been an active thing for, probably an entire year, at least, before this game released, because maybe it would mean that this game isn't in the state that it's in. And once again, I just feel like we're all actively participating in beta stage development for Civ 7. And once again, they're looking for the community to shape how these mechanics ultimately look for Civ 7. So do they have the vision? Or are they just going to go with whatever the people complain about? Nobody really knows here. Regardless, though, I think this is a good idea, but it's just, I'm a little concerned it might lead to more general lack of vision, and the fact that they're implementing this late in the Civ in Civ 7's dev cycle as well. Like, the game is already released. This should have been something before the game even comes out, because then maybe you can tweak some of these major mechanics before, advertising them as the major mechanics for the game, and then, lessening their impact. There is also some new free content coming in November, this Tides of Power collection, with a focus on some naval stuff, but to be honest, I really just can't be bothered to care about it. It is free, but I still don't care. The core systems of this game are just so half-baked that no amount of new leaders and civs will make it suddenly become good. And I mean, a little analogy for you. If your house is on fire, putting in a new couch won't make it tolerable. You probably should put out the fire first. So anyways, in other news, I'm probably going to be giving a try to uploading some other content on this channel. So, I mean, don't be surprised if you see something like Battlefield 6 guides or Anno 117 or anything like that. I'll still cover Civ 7 when there are major things to report on, but aside from that, I don't really plan on doing much with it unless I'm actually enjoying playing it. So if enough updates come out and it suddenly becomes fun, maybe I'll play it a little bit more, but aside from that, probably just expect things like this where I give some updates on some of the news and some of the development for this game. So anyways, let me know what you think about this newsletter here in the comments section below. But thank you everyone for watching. I've been the Saxy Gamer. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you're looking for some more Civilization 7 content, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.